Hey, it's Marthea, the MSW coach. Give me one moment. So, hey, it's Marthea, it's the MSW coach. And I'm going live to talk about a bonus workshop series that I deal with my coaching clients today inside of the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator Coaching Accelerator. And so what we did was a special bonus section on distinguishing the difference between tasks and competencies. So I wanted to come on live to break that down for you all in a shortened, brief version, because the bonus workshop that we had today was so good that the social workers inside of my coaching container walked away with aha moments around how they have done these higher level experiences inside of their case management jobs. Hey Brenda, how you doing? And so I wanted to come on to talk about it with you all, to give you some insight about the difference between a task and a competency, and really emphasize and stress the fact that competencies get you macro jobs, not tasks. So first I want to say that Cohort 17 enrollment is open now for the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator. It started officially today. If you are interested in learning more about my coaching program and how I could potentially help you learn how, or teach you how to identify, apply, and interview for your dream macro social work job in 3 months or less, I encourage you to click the link in my bio and schedule a free 15-minute get to know you chat. And that's just where I learn about what your career needs are, what your barriers are, and it's the opportunity for me to explain what the program is, what it entails, and to determine if you will be a good fit for the accelerator. Is also where I share price and payment plan options and finance options. Price is not like it's a secret thing that's held behind a secret wall where you gotta go through an obstacle course. The reason I don't publicly share the price and all of the things is because I don't work with every social worker. So we first have to go through the preliminary screening process to see if you will be a good fit for you to receive an invite into the accelerator, and then that's when I get into price and payment plan options. So if you're interested in learning more about Cohort 17, what it entails, all of the things, click the link in the bio, schedule a free get to know you chat, and that is the easiest, most painless way to learn about the accelerator. So let's jump into it about the difference between task and competencies. So what is a task? A task is a task or duty that you do that is a part of your everyday job, right? So I always say that social workers, for their macro resumes, always have a bullet that says something like manage the caseload. And people love to quote me and say oh, you said we shouldn't have that on there. And it's true, because tasks don't get you macro jobs, right? What gets you macro jobs, because a task, anyone can be trained to do that, right? Anyone. That's why a large number of social workers are in social jobs designed for social service professionals, which are citizens of the community where your social service agency is housed. And those positions, anyone can be trained to do them, right? Because not every social worker is in a clinical role. A lot of social workers are in non-clinical roles, and a lot of those roles are typical social service positions, right? And so what gives you a macro job is your ability to do or master your proficiency of competencies. And so there's two distinct groups of competencies. And what you should know about a competency is, depending on what category they fall in, they are only gained through an explicit set of experience, right? And so the first category of a competency is a professional competency. So a professional competency for a social worker is something that a social worker does specifically because they are in the social work profession, right? So an example, would be something like program management, right? Program management, programmatic oversight. That's something that you learn over the course of your professional experience, right? It's not necessarily, sometimes depending on the organization type, right? And I'm pulling up my notes. Sometimes it can be taught to you or trained to you, but for the most part, you gain your mastery of those skills over time, right? And then there is specialized competencies. And specialized competencies are things that are more technical in nature. So the example that I wrote down is like for clinical research, right? Clinical research is very specialized in nature, right? You have to know about the IRB approval board. You have to understand about how to collect and analyze data. You have to know all of the ins and outs to conduct, or you have to know about conducting clinical trials. It's very technical in nature. However, today during the bonus workshop series, I wasn't focused on any competencies that were specific to social work. What I did was I challenged the group to identify their competencies outside of the social work profession. And so I wanted to bring those examples here to you all on live to talk about it. And so one of the examples that we use for a specialized competency, I'm going to kind of flip the reverse of this conversation today. The specialized competency that we focused on today was supply chain management. Why? Because my coaching client who I did a hot seat coaching session for today, right? Who was the impetus for this bonus workshop series. In her past career life, she was in the military, and as a part of her role, she was responsible for processing invoices for the fleet, the vehicle fleet, for the military unit that she was housed in, right? And so and let me give you a little context to this. She has gone through the resume intensive writing phase of the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator, and she's actively working on editing her resume. So she was asking for feedback on an edit that she made on her resume for one of her bullets for one of her older jobs, right? And so I told her, I was like, let's do this in the full group. I'm going to turn it into a whole workshop. So what I shared with the group was what she was trying to capture in one of her bullets was her role and responsibility of processing these invoices for her unit in regards to the vehicles that were assigned to the military personnel in that unit, right? So she didn't do this in a city. She didn't even do it within just specific to the U.S. country. Like she did it while they were stationed in other countries. And so what I was telling her was that the larger specialized competency here is that you were doing supply chain management, right? And so this is something that social workers would never think that they do. Right. And the reason I told her this, or the reason I was able to identify this, is because she talked specifically about her role in not only processing the invoice, like when the unit leaders would request special equipment for the vehicles or new vehicles, but also around like the processing and handling of it, the ordering of the supplies and resources, and things like that. And so what I helped her identify was that what you did was supply chain management. But we didn't stop there. We broke it down even further to then identify the professional competencies that she had to use in addition to that. So if you're not familiar with the competency of supply chain management is what they use in the logistics industry, right? And so the example that I gave my coaching clients today is like when you go into Target and you buy your favorite product, it doesn't just magically fall onto the shelf. There's a whole world behind getting and processing system to get that one product in your favorite store, right? There are people, systems, organizations that have to coordinate the moving of the products from point A to point B. It really is more like point A to point Z. And so the example I gave them is like kale, right? You go into Target, you go buy you a bag of kale or a bunch of kale. Someone had to be responsible for coordinating the logistics part of getting the kale from the kale farmer, getting it to the distributor then putting it on a truck and getting it to the Target warehouse to be processed and bagged up and packaged and priced. And then someone has to coordinate getting that from the warehouse to your favorite kales, to your favorite Target, right? It's a whole process. And so my coaching client was responsible for doing this, but in a military setting. So I first showed her where she has done supply chain management. And so I'm breaking this down for you all because this is how how I'm able to help my coaching clients pivot from social work into completely unrelated areas of work, right? Because your typical approach to looking at your experience is looking at your task and your duties. And if you're just chiming in, I broke down what a task and duty was at the beginning of the conversation. But a task and duties are things like manage a caseload, seeing clients, right? Managing case files. Those are things that are specific to your job. However, that's not what gets you a macro job. What really sets you apart and shows your ability to pivot into any unrelated industry, organization type, and position type is by identifying your competencies and explaining those in a way that are relevant to your target employer. So for my coaching client, she's interested in doing work related to criminal, justice reform is the more accurate way to describe it. Justice reform, police accountability. That is her area of focus, right? However, as a part of being inside of my micro to macro career accelerator, my objective for everyone is to write what I call a master macro resume. It's where you sit down and you translate all of your past jobs and work experiences and write up one resume so you don't ever have to redraft it again. And what you do is, as you progress in your career, you just add your new job to it and you just tailor it to apply to certain jobs that you want to focus on, right? So because of that, she had to go back to her first job and put down that she was responsible for the supply chain management work. So just a little context for the people who entered the room. So once I showed her or explained to her and to the group today around this is supply chain management. So if she wanted, just off of that job alone, she could pivot into supply chain management or logistics, supply chain management role. She can pivot into a logistics-based organization, which, fun fact, they make really good money in the logistics industry because that's how we get our food. That's how we get our supplies. Like, they make good money. So I just want to say that, like, she could pivot into that, even though the bulk of her work experience present day is medical social work, travel medical social work. She still has this whole other career life where in the military for multiple years she was doing supply chain management. So I just want to say, like, this is the cornerstone of how I help my people pivot into completely unrelated areas of work without having to go back to school, get additional degrees, get additional certifications, things, anything like that. So first we identified the specialized competency of the supply chain management, but then I distilled it even further for the group today for my coaching clients, and I broke down what her professional competencies were. Now, professional competencies are things that are not specific to an industry. Right? So supply chain management, I just told you all, that's specific to logistics. Clinical research, that's specific to clinical professionals, people with clinical backgrounds. Even the use of computer software like Salesforce, that is specific to people who are in sales-focused positions. Even though a lot of human service organizations present day are using Salesforce as like their case management service tracking system, but still, Salesforce is synonymous. It connects with the sales industry. But when we talk about professional competencies are things that you can do regardless of your industry or your profession, right? So some of the examples that I covered for my coaching clients today was the fact that every social worker does project management, right? And again, the examples I'm giving are not synonymous with social work. We didn't talk about anything that a social worker does. I'm all about teaching people how to identify their experience outside of the social work profession so they can pivot into non-social work roles. That's where the money is, okay? That's where the biggest impact is. It is what it is. You can feel what you want to feel, but it's true. So one of the very first things that I know that every case manager does is project management. And so the example that I gave my group is that project management is responsible for creating timelines, deliverables, and tracking the completion of a project, the completion of moving something from point A to point Z. So in the example, my coaching client, she was responsible for moving this invoice to an actual product, to the thing that the unit wanted, to having it delivered to the unit. She was responsible for all of the moving parts. She was responsible for coordinating, well, first identifying potential approved vendors to fill the order. She was responsible for creating the timelines and deadlines. She was responsible for making certain that all of the approved signatures were needed. That's project management. How a social worker does this in case management is that we do project management, but we just do it with humans, right? We just do it with humans. Our primary role as a case manager is to help our person get from one point to the next, even if it's just point A to B or point A to Z, right? A lot of us when I used to be in case management, you don't get to see your person fully achieve a desired outcome, right? Normally you're just there to triage, to kind of support them to getting to point B at least, right? And hopefully they can get to point Z on their own at some point. But it's a process that you have to use to get them there. There's timelines that you have to be aware of. There's key deliverables that you have to achieve. So I'm going to break those down for you. So when you're talking about helping a client get from point A to point B, and I'm going to use the example that I use for my coaching clients today. In my first case management job I've only ever had to was when I served as a workforce development career counselor in the Federal Workforce Board. This is where I got the battery in my back. My macro area of interest is workforce development, ensuring that under-resourced communities, specifically rural areas, have access to good quality, good paying jobs, because I saw the glaring inequities in that system. In that job, I was responsible for, when a person would be assigned to my caseload, I was responsible for ensuring that they were assigned to work activity to meet the requirements of their public assistance benefits, right? So as a part of doing that work, I was responsible for ensuring that they got whatever they needed to effectively begin to engage in this required work activity, right? A long-term outcome would have been employment. But again, in case management, we don't get to go that far. If you do, it's a win. And just as a note, a lot of my people got jobs, right? But I was doing the impossible in their job. But ideally, the focus is only just to get them into a work activity. So what that looks like for me was when my people came in, within 48 hours, when my people were assigned to my caseload, within 48 hours, I had to conduct an initial assessment. So I had to create a system of, when a person is assigned to my load, I need to be aware of when they're assigned to my caseload. I needed to create some type of streamlined system to ensure that my initial assessment letter went out to them timely. If not, you get dinged for it, right? You get dinged. Your organization doesn't get paid based on the deliverables of the contract. So I had to make certain that I was doing my initial assessment within the parameters of the policy. I had to ensure when they came in that I was asking them all of the required questions that go along with an initial assessment to determine what do they need to effectively engage in this activity. So what that looked like was doing screenings for, do you need childcare? Do you need transportation assistance? We give bus passes, we give gas cards. Are you first assessing their file to determine what work activity do they qualify for? Can you go to school? Do you have to go volunteer? Right? There was a bunch of things that I had to do. There was also a bunch of different organizations that I had to coordinate my services with to ensure that my people were able to move from one checkpoint to the next. Right? So when I would write up the child care referral, I would give them a copy, but then I would have to send it over to the child care agency, which is like our governing body that gives them subsidized child care, right? So I had to coordinate with that. I had to set it up in my system so I would get alerts to know, okay, this referral is only going to be good for 3 months. So then I would have to set alerts in my system to give me a notification of a month before it's due to expire. I need to go in and redetermine their eligibility and issue them another referral, right? So I was creating these timelines. I was creating these deliverables. I was coordinating the people. I was telling my participant, you need to go over to the child care agency and take them XYZ. You need to report to such and such nonprofit to do your volunteer hours. You need to bring your timesheets to me. I had to track their timesheets, right? So all of that are key components of project management. And so many of you do the same thing. All of you do project management. And what I was telling my coaching clients is, you may not do it in a formalized system. You may not even write it down. A lot of people do it up here. You just know when the people get on your caseload, you need to see them within 48 hours and you need to give them such and such and such. That's project management. And project management is a professional competency. Again, if you're just getting on, you can watch the replay and understand the difference between a specialized and professional competency and the difference between tasks and competencies. The main thing you should know now to pick up on this conversation is that competencies allow you to pivot into unrelated jobs. Competencies are what gets you macro jobs. Tasks, things like manage the caseload, is what keeps you pigeonholed in social work case management jobs. And for the most part, before people work with me, their resume is filled with tasks, things that are duty driven, that is only synonymous with social service jobs. So project management is something that everyone has done, regardless of where you were. Even my medical social workers, my school social workers, when you all are creating the timelines and the deliverables and the checkpoints for IEP processes, for my medical social workers, for your discharges, you're using project management strategies and techniques, okay? And so another thing that I was sharing with my group that everyone does is budget management and compliance. I'm not going to go through the full list because I did 3 examples with them. I'm going to just give you one more. But budget management and compliance. So the example that I gave my coaching clients today is like, in my first case management job, I was responsible for issuing gas cards, again, authorizing child care. I was responsible for giving my people bus passes, and I had to do that within the parameters of the set budget guidelines for my program. So my program said that my people could only get 4 bus passes a month, right? Because they were 4 weekly bus passes. They were unlimited per week. They could only get 4 per month. So what that would look like is I would have to go through my file to ensure, before I issued them a bus pass, as bad as they may have needed them or wanted them, I would have to go through my file and ensure that I hadn't already given them any for that month already, or maxed them out already for the month before I can give them more. In addition to that, I would have to write down on like a paper log, when I would issue bus passes, right? Who I issued them to, what was the number on the bus pass, how much was the bus pass worth, what was the date, and I would have to sign off. All of those things that you do as case managers are not just because. That is a part of budget management. You're doing that because at the end of the week or at the end of the month, for me, it was once I was to the end of my assigned stack of bus passes and gas cards, I would have to take my completed log to the business manager, who would then take all of my information from that log and update it into her much larger tracking system to report it to the home office to say, this is what we've done, this, and it will help her track our budget compliance, like our budget allocation. So if there was a time, and there's been a time or two where like maybe the batch she gave me was not counted accurately when she gave it to me, and in my rush of trying to get back to my desk to give my people what they need, I didn't like count through it and make certain the numbers were correct. So at the end of the month, when I would give it back, it would be like a bus pass short or two. And so then we would have to go through this whole reconciliation process to try to track down this one 7-day bus pass, right? All of that is budget compliance. And what we will find out when she looked at her master sheet and I look at my sheet of what I've issued, I never received bus pass 1005. It skipped from 1004 to 1006. All of that is a part of budget compliance, because you can't just say, oh, well, it's a bus pass missing. Oh, well. No, it's a part of the budget. It's a part of the expenses, because many of the organizations, the programs that we work with are third-party contractors. They're being paid to provide a service. And so anytime you cannot account for what you spent money on, that's money they're not going to be reimbursed for. That's money that they're not going to be paid back, right? It's called a disallowed cost if you want to get real technical. So me doing all of those things, that's a part of budget compliance. And so that's something that all of my coaching clients have done, and I wanted to come on and bring it on to you all because you have done it as well as a case manager. And it's so important for you to slow down. This is what I was really telling my coaching clients today. Like, it's so important to slow down and really sit in a place to think about what are the competencies that you did. It's easy for you to rattle off your tasks. Anybody, a social worker, can tell me with the quickness that they managed the caseload, that they coordinated resources, but that doesn't get you macro jobs. Competencies does, because those experiences are worth more. That knowledge is worth more. If you have on your resume that you did supply chain management, or you utilize Salesforce, or that you have experience in project management, budget management, and compliance, those are what I call higher level duties. And the key is to emphasize those on your macro resume rather than your task. So I have gone through that way more in depth than I planned. But if you just got here, if you're watching a replay, drop in the comments or drop in the chats. What is one specialized competency or professional competency that you have done? And I will tell you what I told my coaching clients today. Please do not say you didn't do it, right? Because it's like a double-edged sword. When you are a case manager, you have done everything under the sun. Why? Because unfortunately, you're in a position where you're being overworked and undervalued. However, if you have the requisite career readiness knowledge of like how you can take that not so great situation and flip it for you and take those experiences in 2 times, 3 times, 4 times your salary, it's a win, because you're in a place where you can get unlimited experience in whatever the thing is that you want to get experience in. Again, this is why my coaching clients are able to 2, 3 times, 4 times their salaries, is because I've taught them how to identify their competencies and highlight those on their resume and focus on those in their interview. So Marie says, I'm wanting to transition from direct practice to anything else. I'm older and tired. LOL. Ooh, yeah. Yeah. I would encourage you to, oh, you said got it. Good. I love it. So focus on the competencies. Focus more on the competencies and less on the tasks. If you're like, I am tired of social work, I want to pivot into a non-social work related field, or at least something that's non-direct practice, focus on your competencies. If you just got here, watch the replay, right? And also with that, I want you all to understand that the default is not go back to school, get another degree, go get a certification. The default should be, I need to learn how to effectively navigate this job market. I need to learn career readiness skills, and career readiness is more than just writing your resume. It's understanding how to get clear on what it is that you want to do, how to strategically plan your career. For like Marie, I'm going to use you as an example because I've been talking about it for the last 2 days with my coaching clients. What I noticed out on the internet scene is that the girls who are really pushing the corporate baddies, they are slowing down, which I told y'all that a few years ago. You're going to slow down in your career. The zeal and the excitement you have and the energy you have in your career in your early 20s, you ain't going to have that mid 20s. And you're most definitely not going to have it your early 30s. You're not going to have it your mid 30s. Why? Because life changes. Your priorities change. Your interests change. Like the things you want to do, your energy changes. And so when those changes in your life comes, you have to know how to shift gears, right? Because to go into it with the expectation that I'm going to be in these direct practice case management jobs going 1,000 miles an hour until 65, whatever the retirement age is, I don't know it, and I don't care to know it. I think it's 65. To think you're going to be going that rate of speed is unrealistic. Okay, Marie says, no, I'm in my 40s. Yes. So you have to know how to pivot. You got to know how to pivot, right? Because though you just got to know how to pivot. I'm going to leave it there. Also, you got to know how to pivot in times of like world changes, right? Because, and I've talked about this in past video around like with the new administration coming in 2025, organizations are already shifting their work, shifting how they do their work, shifting the priority, the focus of their organizations as a way to not lose their funding, which they always do with every administration. However, what if they shift to doing something that you don't agree with? Are you just going to sit there and not be in agreement? Or what if they shift and lose funding and then get rid of 3 positions and make your one position 4 positions in one and still only paying you for one? Are you just going to sit there and be overworked? So you have to learn career readiness so you're able to navigate in this ever-changing job market. Marie says that's where I am. I am pivoting. I love it. So if you want to learn more about how to identify, apply, and interview for your dream macro social work job, to learn the fundamentals of career readiness, of how to navigate your career through these changes, how to pivot into completely unrelated fields and industries without having to go back to school, get certifications, take demotions, get a supervisor job, whatever the things the social workers tell you on the street, networking. You should join Cohort 17 of the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator. Enrollment officially open today and it will close on Saturday. There is a link in my bio to schedule a free get to know you chat, or you can DM me. I see somebody saying that DM me. So let's see. Baby says, should we use AI to help us transition our current resume competencies to what is on the job description? Baby, no. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. The thing with AI, right, is that you have to know exactly what to tell it to do. And I'm not being funny. Y'all know I love to laugh and all of the things. But social workers don't have the requisite knowledge enough to effectively use like a chat GPT or whatever your favorite platform is. And so what's happening is when I see people use chat GPT or AI to write their resume, you can tell. And actually, I was just telling my coaching clients, I just wrapped up a resume writing intensive with one of my coaching clients. Employers are putting on their applications for macro jobs that you will be automatically disqualified if they identify that you use AI to write your resume and cover letter. And just so you know, the ways that they do that is they have detection software that they built into their system. But even more than that, you can just look at a resume and tell that somebody used AI for it, because there's a bunch of filler words that don't say nothing. The most effective way to use it is you need to know the basics of your competencies that you did in your job. And I'm not being funny, but social workers don't know it. Social workers just know the task. And it's a process, right? Before my coaching client that I walked through that step today that I just told you about, that was 3 months of her working with me and me taking her through the clarity phase, me teaching her how to find organizations that do the work that she wants to do, me teaching her how to find aligned jobs that do the work that she wants to do on a day-to-day basis, me teaching her how to read through the job description, how to determine that she's qualified, how to understand what experience she has meets the qualifications, how to identify that, how to write it on. It's a process. It's a process. And so I would say if you use it, just be aware that it ain't gonna give you the best thing. In the words of my business coach, it don't have a soul. So if you use it, just remember that, okay? Marie says, I'll DM you. So glad I came across this video. I love it. I'm so glad you came here. But I would encourage you, what I tell my people is the best way is to learn how to write your own resume. Nothing beats old school. Believe you me, that's how my people get jobs, and I helped over 180 people get jobs. Nothing beats old school. All those shortcuts and tricks and put white font in the bottom to beat the ATS, that stuff doesn't work, right? It may work to get you a job, but to get you the job that you want, it doesn't work, right? And actually it's more headache than it's worth if you just sit down, put the time in, learn how to write the resume. You write your resume one time, you're just tailoring it for the other jobs. It's really a straightforward process when you learn proven strategies and techniques to do that. And that's what I teach my coaching clients. Girl, I don't know. I heard what y'all call them? What I call them people? Career influencer telling people one time to put white font or something. I don't know. I don't repeat that stuff. I teach you how to fish over here. I don't teach you how to. What I teach my people is what has helped them go on to get 2, 3, 4, 5 macro jobs since working with me. I really teach you how to fish. We're not doing no, magic and tricks over here. We're learning the basics, and that's how my people are progressively advancing in their new macro career because they've learned the fundamentals. So I'm going to go. If you're interested in enrolling in Cohort 17, the link is in the bio. Schedule a free 15-minute get to know you chat with me. It's free. I don't charge you nothing. You don't have to buy nothing. It's just an opportunity for me to learn about what your career needs are, for me to explain what the Accelerator is, for me to see if you are a good fit for the Accelerator. I also give you the price and the payment plan options and the finance options. I have a bunch of finance options available, so there's no barrier as far as cost for you to enroll. I've already had people enroll and they started over the last several weeks, so it's a highly successful program. My testimonials are also in the link in bio. But schedule a get to know you chat with me. I'll talk to y'all later. Happy macro career planning. Bye.